I think we're live. I hope everyone can hear us. So, hi everyone. I have been away from live since I think it was Van Zande, might have been my last live, which is like months ago. And I am joined today by House of Chatter, the lovely
Hello,
Emmy.
everybody.
um, so we decided I was going to do a video, my normal recorded for tomorrow, but I got my I got talked into actually because Emmy said, "Oh, can I join you on a live?" And I was like, "Oh, do you know what? I'll do a live." I need to do one. I'm overdue. Um, so we've got some. We wanted to talk about Judge Lyman's order today, didn't we?
Yes, we did. And the crashing out of attorneys.
Uh, that's one way to put it. So I just hi everyone. Oh, I can see Confessions of a Jaded Optimist. Hi, Rose is Wild. Oh, I love Rose is Wild and Christy. Awesome. Gelf Walker. So hi everyone. It's nice to see you. I feel a bit out of practice. Okay, let's oh, thank you, Jesse and Max.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, it's so sweet. So sweet. So we got here now. This is the original letter from Lively, the original motion, and basically, Lyman has highlighted a bunch of stuff. Like he, at the top, it's the reference to Fritz improperly instructing her not to answer, and then all of the quoted transcript and a few other bits. So basically, he doesn't say why, but at the bottom, he's printed his stuff. So what has happened is right. So what's happened is technically he's denied the motion for sanctions, except he's also given her everything she's asked for. Did you notice that?
Yeah, it was disappointing. I was happy and disappointed at the same time. It was just
Yeah. So I can see a little bit of why Friedman was admonished, right? So that what that means is he's basically been told to knock it off. And if he doesn't, then he will be risking sanctions. So the reason he's been admonished is because he wasn't kind of noticed to speak. And the way and some of the things he said as well. I was a bit like here. I don't know if I can. Your kids going wild?
Yes, can you hear them?
Yeah.
I will be right back.
No, yeah, don't worry, take your time. So here we got after sorry, I dropped something. So after Gaversky says it's my deposition, you got Friedman saying, yeah, that's right, and you're improperly handling it and you don't know what you're doing or how to practice law. And I think like there were lines that Friedman crossed there which were a bit, I don't know, they could be arguably unprofessional. She obviously does know how to practice law. She's she's licensed by bar. So I think, and then there's the next line down as well. The next line down for Friedman, no, you're the one giving speaking objections as your mouth is moving right now. And I think, well, yeah, okay, that would probably warranted admonishment, to be fair. But so he's been told don't do it again, or you will get sanctions. And he hasn't, but I think where Lyman is kind of stretching it, he's saying that, well, I didn't actually sanction you, which technically is true. But he has given the extra hour for deposition, which I agree with because Wayfarer said, well, we were happy to do that anyway. So that's why Lyman has done that. They were happy to do that. What I'm a bit pissed off about is Lively asked for Wayfarer to meet the costs of like the videographer and any costs associated with the deposition, as well as the hour fees for her attorneys. And Judge Lyman has also given that as well. He's ordered Wayfarer to meet all those costs. And it's like, well, she didn't actually ask for anything else. She got everything she wanted.
Yeah, it just seems really one-sided.
Yeah, so it's like the actual sanctioning, they did not get, and that's pretty much it. What do you think? Before I say anything else,
I mean, I think they got sanctioned without getting sanctioned.
Yeah. So
Which is
is maybe it's a good idea then to kind of say, well, what are sanctions and what's the difference, right? Because obviously she's had costs awarded, and for the deposition, she's had the additional bit of the deposition that she wanted. She had the cost, and then she's had her lawyer's fees also awarded as well. Friedman has been warned. So what else is missing? So in civil law, sanctions are kind of like, they can be damages, like a monetary compensation if there's for a harm or something. It can be an injunction. So the court is like might make an order then to say, you have to do this specific action, or you are prohibited from doing this specific action. And then there's like specific performance, which is where the court mandates fulfillment of, like, for argument's sake, contractual obligations. So there's those kind of sanctions. We've seen some of them requested in the sanctions for spoliation. Like she wants Lyman to kind of issue an instruction to the jury to assume that the evidence exists, etc., etc. So these are the kind of examples. She didn't actually say what specific sanctions she wanted. So although he's not actually technically awarded sanctions, I feel like it's a stretch to say he didn't award sanctions technically, because Wayfarer are having to, they're having to pay the cost. And the reason it annoys me is because there was clearly evidence that they were this was largely a PR thing, because they had that letter like from 3 months ago, which had nothing to do with this anyway. And they threw in a line about something happening with Baldoni with a teenage girl, which has nothing to do with this whatsoever. And then we had the deposition from Jamie Heath, where Ezra Hudson lost her mind because she had 9 minutes left, but she needed to have a break because she couldn't cope with 9 minutes. And it's like, clearly, whilst I agree there is maybe a bit, maybe Friedman shouldn't have spoken, or he certainly shouldn't have said some of the things he said. I do agree with that. I don't agree that it warranted, like, the judge could have just said, well, Wayfarer are prepared to meet your request for the additional hour. Everyone go away and be happy with that. Because there were other factors, like Lively did not meet and confer before filing the motion.
That's true.
And the kind of the use of the PR as well, which was so evident as well, like, the fact that they threw in, oh, well, she was being questioned about, her sexual history, when that's clearly not the case in this expert deposition. It's completely irrelevant. And then that generated headlines. Well, twice was it Friedman? A Friedman and a Fritz filing both got struck for having that kind of inflammatory PR kind of thing. So I'm annoyed.
Yeah, it doesn't seem, it's definitely not fair, but that's been par for the course with Judge Lyman. I still feel like Blake got her sanctions without sanctions. She got her way. She got her cost-saving attorney's fees. But also, are you kind of surprised that she didn't go after the deposition and the expert itself, kind of like in a way that she attacked Jamie Heath and the video and his testimony on the subject? Like, this is an expert on what, AI and internet trends, right?
Yeah,
This is
so
a
it's like
rebuttal expert.
Yeah, so what this expert is specifically doing is So obviously, Lively is saying, well, this digital public backlash against me, that was all Wayfarer's fault. It was stuff they did. They seeded this, they generated that, they had a bot army. It was all untraceable, but they definitely did it. And Wayfarer is saying, well, no, it's organic. And this expert is kind of to try and rebut Lively's assertion that Wayfarer were behind this kind of, this kind of digital backlash that she had. So I don't know. I don't know. I honestly thought that this sanction motion I thought was just like it was just all PR. I didn't think it was serious at all. But I like for Judge Lyman to kind of rule on it really quickly and pretty much give everything that Lively asked for as well, whilst claiming the ability to be able to that he's saying that he's denied it. Is just crazy for me, I think.
So here's a question. After Lively gets her 1 hour with this expert, and this is kind of a pattern of what I've noticed with Blake Lively, she needs extra time or she needs to get to the witness first before Wayfair does. Do you expect any other motions or sanction requests coming out of this 1 hour, maybe challenging the expert themselves?
I wouldn't. Nothing surprises me anymore. I have to say this all the time. I have to start my videos now with a big sigh, which I've become known for doing, and then following up with nothing surprises me. Because when I started this, I was, very much with my professional head of, I had a lot of faith in the judge. Even if I didn't agree with him, I thought there was some method to it. There was some rationale. I still think that a little bit, but it's becoming harder to kind of agree with this or see the positive in this. And nothing would surprise me at all. This has got to be like, I think we calculated the 10th sanction motion. Sorry. I think when me and Lauren were speaking about it with Cassidy, this is like sanctions motion number 10. So do I expect another one? Yes. Because they're coming out at least bi-weekly at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it really is. Like I've done more on sanctions. Like, in the middle of the year, it was subpoena. I was talking about, saying the word subpoena so much I couldn't say it anymore. And now it's sanctions.
Mm-hmm.
Roses Wild, this is just the deposition misconduct. This is not any of the other sanctions motions, which are all still sitting pending. I probably should have clarified that. That's a really good question as well. I don't know why she wasn't admonished. She should have been.
Yeah. Is this part of maybe Judge Lyman not wanting to be appealed, so he's just going to give her whatever she wants?
Yeah, so I have said from the beginning, and I still stand by this, right? The situation Lyman's in, whilst I do think he is leaning towards Lively, absolutely I do. And Cassidy has found some interesting financial connections. I'm not sure where I sit with them myself. They are something to be, looked into, but we don't know what has been declared. So if it's been declared, then it doesn't matter whether the connections exist. As long as it's declared properly to the parties and the parties are okay to proceed on that basis, then it doesn't matter that there are financial connections. But so Lively has definitely been kind of favouring, not Lively, Lyman has been favouring Lively. May as well call him Lively now. But there's two things I'm thinking, right? One is obviously denying requests of someone who is claiming to be a victim of sexual harassment, right, is difficult. So he is going to try and appear accommodating. And I think that's strategic for him. I think most judges would do that, though. That's not just a Lyman thing. I think a lot of judges would do that. But also, I do think, and I've said this from the beginning, is he is making sure that he gives her nothing to appeal on. because Wayfarer will appeal.
Oh yeah.
We know
Oh
that.
yeah.
Jed Wallace has already filed his notice to appeal in the Texas docket where Lively was dismissed from his complaint. He is now appealing that. I do think Wayfarer will appeal as well for their complaint that was thrown out. And I think they've got a lot of grounds to appeal some of the decisions here. But we need to see collectively how these decisions that are being made in the current case now, how they affect at trial later on. Because we don't know he's going to grant any of the sanctions that are pending. I think he will. That's the worrying bit because he seems to grant everything. But that's just me now. That's where I'm becoming more and more skeptical. And it's not just individual decisions. It needs to be the whole picture. Like Wayfarer will, it looks like they're putting up with crap, and they are to a point. But they will get to trial. They will see what happens at trial. If they win, great. It doesn't matter how they got there or what the journey looked like. They got there. If they don't win, and they feel that the trial that this was prejudiced by, one or a number of decisions along the way, then they can appeal that. They'll do it then. So we're not going to see any appealing here and now, which is fair. I'm just reading the messages. Sorry.
So here's a question: if
Yeah.
Wayfair wins, will Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds appeal?
I reckon they would. They'll probably try it. The thing is, they got to have legal grounds. It can't be because they're not happy with the decision. That's not an appealable issue. It's got to be the judges erred somewhere in the law or on a fact issue.
Well, we've already established a number of fact issues. In fact, I just did a video on Blake Lively's weight, where the judge mentions the comment in the weight, and then you have the personal trainer saying, yeah, he had back problems.
Yeah.
And there's text messages in Wayfair's amended complaint, or in the timeline saying that, and that's a clear fact issue in my opinion, but Judge Lyman glossed it over. That's just like one example at the top of my head. There's many that I think were just, I don't know, glossed over.
In Wayfarer's in the Wayfarer's dismissed complaint, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, there was a number of issues there. The fact that he just, blanket said, well, Ryan Reynolds probably just believed his wife. He shouldn't be coming to that conclusion.
Right.
He shouldn't be just kind of making statements. He was making too many statements. And don't forget, a motion to dismiss is decided on the law, the applicable law, not on facts. So he shouldn't, but he was applying facts. And that was a problem. And I think there are very good grounds for Wayfarer to appeal that decision. But obviously, that's Wayfarer v Lively. Lively v Wayfarer, which is what we've still got going now, is like they're all consolidated, they're all related, but it's still a separate case in its own right. So if Lively loses this complaint, this case, yes, I can see her trying to find a route to an appeal. I just can't see it. And the reason I can't see it is because Judge Lyman has given her everything. So I don't see, like, if it's just a case of the jury doesn't believe her, that's not grounds for an appeal. She can't just say, right, well, I want an appeal because I'm not happy with the decision. And this is a perfect comment, Christy. Well done. They were sanctioned without being sanctioned. Yeah, that's how I took it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. So I'm going through all the comments trying to. Oh, there's so many people here. It's nice to see some faces. Oh,
Hi,
Christina. Hello, Christina. Hi.
Rose is wild. I don't know most of these people.
Oh, yeah, it's nice. Some of them have been with me from really early on. Some of them are new, and it's such a lovely little community.
Oh, it is. Everybody has been really supportive. It's just been a blast. And if I'm not live every day, I miss everybody. And the last week, I missed my therapy sessions.
Yeah, that happens. So so this is kind of, he just stamped his stamped his signature on this.
He likes to do that.
He does, yeah. I mean, I would have liked, I can understand why some of these decisions have been made. I just don't understand why he's not sort of saying, yes, that letter was, you clearly had no intention. You never brought it to my attention at the time. It's months old. It has nothing to do with this. Why did you attach it? Because that was entirely gratuitous.
Yeah.
That was just to generate headlines, which it did.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he's the one that's constantly reminding Wayfarer, like, he doesn't like bad PR. Like, I can understand. I was one of the few people that actually understood why he struck Friedman's affidavit about Taylor Swift. I got it. I didn't like it, but I actually understood where the judge was coming from, because it generated such a media frenzy, and he's especially federal judges, they don't like that. And for good reason, actually, because it can end up in a mistrial. It could prejudice the case. It could cause all kind of problems. It could leave a door open that Lively could then use to an appeal.
And this
So
isn't?
no, sadly, no, I don't think so. Because the part of the reason that Friedman's affidavit was such a problem, even though I entirely believe he got something, because no one in their right mind would sign an affidavit if they didn't. He was pretty much putting his career on the line to doing that. So I think there was something, but the reason it was so inflammatory was because he was effectively accusing Gottlieb of, calling up Taylor Swift, of all people, her lawyer, and blackmailing the lawyer, like, by proxy. Like, well, tell your client that my client will release 10 years of her text messages if she doesn't, say something nice about why I wasn't at the Super Bowl. And it wasn't just the parties and, well, party, non-party. It was the actual, noticed counsel as well that was being accused of this kind of misconduct, and that's a really serious thing.
When I think about that letter, it's all PR, right? Like, this whole game is PR, which means Leslie Sloan is PR. So Leslie Sloan must have done some sort of back research or something to figure out that Blake Lively needed support from Taylor Swift about a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I want to see that research. I want to see the research that Leslie Sloan has done. And for the record, I think Leslie Sloan is a horrible PR person. She has not coached Blake Lively on anything. And because of that, it's made things worse for Lively. For example, Lively should have been coached, shut your mouth about the script and don't say that your husband wrote it.
Well, she's always opening her mouth. I think that's part of her problem, but that's made, like, our jobs easier to do then, because we go back and find her saying all this crap in interviews from years ago and be like, hold on a minute.
Oh yeah, I love it. There's so much in her interviews, and I did a video just cutting and pasting some of her responses in interviews into, cross-examination questions. But she just gives us so much that I'm like, how come no one has coached you? For example, like Jennifer Abel coached Justin Baldoni in his interviews, and had points to say and whatnot, and he was polished. Blake Lively, what are you doing? And Leslie Stone is standing right there through like half of these interviews. You can see her in the background, and she's just
Oh,
not doing
yeah.
her PR job.
No. I mean, there's deposition transcripts on the docket. They are sealed. Leslie Sloan has obviously been deposed. I do you know I'm not seeing anything for Brandon Sklenar.
No, there isn't. And
Mm.
I'm supposed to be doing a live this evening on Brandon. It's going to be a 3-part series, but I feel that they should have dug into him more because
Yeah,
there's
I do.
something that went on there. If you look at the poster, the original poster, it has Brandon's name on it.
Yeah,
And I'm pretty sure he had to agree with Wayfair for his image to be used on a movie poster. So imagine if all of a sudden Blake Lively says, "Hey, I'm taking your face off and your name and lights off of this poster. But don't worry,
mm,
I might give you a back end and maybe this movie and this movie." But it turns out even in The Handmaid's Tale, which was announced October 2024, his name isn't on the movie poster. So she screwed
yeah,
him out. So she screwed him out of a film poster credit twice.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. No, absolutely. I think there's more going on there. Um, I well, I don't know. The two big players for me have always been three. Actually, there's three. Would be Colleen Hoover, Alex Sachs, and Liz Plank. They're the three that I think, like, because when I read some of the deposition transcript, I was like surprised at how many women, and it's embarrassing to say this as well as a woman, but how many women were kind of, taking advantage of men who were, were nice and accommodating and to the struggles of women in that industry.
oh, it was a cat fight. It was probably an internal cat fight.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what happened is they saw blood in the water. They're confident women, they're powerful women no matter what. I mean, one has a production company, one, are pretty successful.
Yeah.
And they saw what they saw, I think, was an indie movie that was a blockbuster. And they went for it because Wayfair is originally indie movies, right? Like Jenny Slate's from the indie era.
Yeah.
And so I think I think maybe Liz Plank was like, "Hey, Blake Lively, this is a blockbuster. Look at these numbers." And then someone went to Sony and was like, "Look at these numbers." And I think Sony is involved in this way more than anybody. And they have a sordid history as well. Sony has accusations of SA and SH going back to 2014,
Yeah.
2010.
I mean, it's like Liz Plank as well. When I did my deep dive on her, at the start, because I did deep dives on some of the characters, and when I looked at hers, I think hers was the one that shocked me the most because, like, I'd looked and I'd seen the history, and they were good friends, her and Justin, from like quite early on. She was one of the first people he talked to about optioning the book, and then she was brought on as one of the producers. And along the way, then when I did the deep dive and I found like what she did on the Florida project with Andrew Duncan, who was accused of SH as well, and then she kind of eventually, when she did speak up, it was like to say, right, well, I'm taking control of. I think they co-founded a production company, and she just took complete control of it, and kind of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, was a bit opportunistic, shall we say. And to see her doing that again, like she was pissed off that Jamie Heath was, not, she was like not the lead producer, Jamie Heath was in the deposition transcript. But when Blake did her 17-point demand, she didn't say that, she didn't request Alex Sachs then be made the, producer in charge. She requested Todd Black come on instead. So it's like, Alex Sachs still didn't get what she actually wanted. So I still don't get why she's siding with Blake Lively, other than there's got to be something coming her way. I know she's doing something with, I think it's Jenny Slate.
Yeah, I think she's
Yeah,
doing something with Jenny Slate,
doing a film now with Jenny
but I
Slate.
think everybody assumed that there was going to be a sequel. And I think everybody was like, "Oh, this is an automatic job in the future."
Yeah,
With I totally forgot what I was going to say, but with Alex Sachs and the 17-point agreement, if you look back at Blake Lively's offer letter and contract, it talks about the tie breaking of creative differences and mutual agreement and all that stuff. I think that Lively was trying to stack her court, if you know what I mean, and getting as many producers that had equal say as Jamie Heath, if not higher, like Justin Baldoni being a director, that she was
Yeah.
stacking her court. So she needed Alex Sachs to have the same rights as Jamie. So she
Yeah.
used the 17 point. So then now Alex Sachs has some skin in the game, right? She brings in Todd Black to be on her side, probably to make it maybe get maybe more critically acclaimed or something, or turn it
Yeah.
into a Oscar winning movie. Because if you look at Todd Black's history, I mean, he's done what, The Pursuit of Happiness and some other films that are really critically acclaimed. So I think she was like stacking her court in the beginning, and then when the real takeover happened, somewhere between Book Bonanza and marketing, something happened with Sony and Alex Sachs. And I think that's because maybe Blake Lively said, I will sue you guys for SH or SA if you don't give this to me. Because if you look at her 56.1 response, and if you do a word search of Angie Giannetti, there is so
Mm,
much blacked out there. And Angie Giannetti was involved with the birth video. She was shown the
yeah.
birth video, thought it was benign. You could see it in text messages. She was involved in the trailer incident. She was outside. Wasn't she outside? I think she was
Yes. Yeah.
outside.
Yes. I think I know Alex Sachs was.
Yeah,
Yes.
Alex
I
Sachs
think I want
was.
to say Angie Giannetti was too.
And
I
I
think
think
it was.
Angie, yeah, Angie was too.
She was in the meeting at the penthouse as well.
That's, yeah, because Wayfair invited her, not Blake Lively.
Yeah.
Because Blake Lively only invited Justin Baldoni and then just sprinkled in the other people for, the glitter of it all and the
Yeah.
illusion of a production meeting or HR, whatever it was. It was a scream fest from what it looks like on the deposition. So I think she was trying to stack her court and leverage it. And I think the sealing portion is Sony doesn't want anything to be unsealed because they have like 2 new movies coming out in January.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't. Nothing surprises me. I keep saying that, but I really do mean it actually. Um, so got this question here actually. Couldn't they file a motion for sanctions pinpointing the fact that her team used them for PR purposes? Um, they could, although Judge Lyman could have actually done something about that sua sponte anyway, because they had brought it to his attention in their response. So whilst Judge Lyman technically is deciding Blake Lively's motion, he could have done what's called sua sponte, and he could have made a decision like he did with Friedman's letter, where he struck that. Lively didn't actually ask for the affidavit to be struck. I think it was the letter before it, but um, Lyman also struck a second letter. I can't remember off the top of my head which one he struck at Lively's request and which one he chose to strike additionally. He could have actually said, you know what, I'm going to admonish Lively's team as well for this is clearly PR. Yeah, this is an improper use of a letter that's 3 months old and completely irrelevant. He could have done that. That was an option. And Wayfarer did not need to file a motion for that. So I think even if they had tried to file a motion for sanctions, I think they wouldn't have got it. Which
Here's a
I don't think it's fair. I think that's completely unfair.
Can Wayfair ask for a strike of that portion or that letter?
No, not well. They could, but I mean, also this is kind of closed. This matter is now closed,
Mm.
so they could. And I mean, I'm frustrated as well that Wayfarer are not pushing back harder a little bit. Definitely they should be pushing back a little bit.
Do you
What? Yeah,
think they're saving the pushback for jury, or do you think this is their natural nature and their natural nature is kind of dictating their legal strategy, kind of like Blake Lively's natural nature is dictating her legal strategy.
So I think this is way fairer. Not, I've seen Friedman in other cases. Um, if it was up to him and his client agreed, he would be pushing back all the way. I think this is way fairer, kind of keeping them, trying not to be combative, because again, like for the same reason that like I said, Lyman has got to be kind of, he's got to be a bit more the perception of being empathetic to someone who's claiming to have been sexually harassed. Wayfarer, I think, are probably trying to do the same thing to, sort of the public perception of, look, hands up in the air kind of thing, like, we're not doing anything. We're not doing anything. We're not fighting back. We're not arguing. You get the odd bit of snark, and I'm here for it, but it's not general shittiness or nastiness. It's snark when it's needed and it's warranted, and it's quite funny. They get information out. They do it really, really well. But yeah, I think we're not going to see them filing sanctions unless it's something that's so egregious. And Lively has done a lot, but nothing that warrants filing back that we know of anyway, because we haven't seen anything from her. But we haven't seen anything that warrants really them filing sanctions, because half of what Lively has filed sanctions for does not warrant filing sanctions. So Wayfarer are not going to just file sanctions willy-nilly kind of thing. They're going to do it properly and try and make a good case, because they know the chances are that Lyman's going to say no unless the argument is so compelling. I mean, even in their response to him tonight with this sanctions motion, the opposition, they cited his own rulings, and he still gave Lively what she asked for in technically, so it's so annoying. It's so annoying. Why isn't Friedman filing for sanctions against, again, I suppose I've answered that, but why is he speaking if he's not supposed to? Yes, I think that's why he got admonished, and I can't say it's not unfair. And I think it's not just the fact that he did speak when he's not supposed to, and that's a big rule, by the way. That's not like that's not an optional rule. That's quite mandatory. Because that's Fritz's job. You have one lawyer from each side who does the talking. The others can be there. They can be present to observe, but they do not speak. That is that's not supposed to happen. So he shouldn't be speaking. And even though he did, and even if it was okay and we could give him a pass for speaking, some of the things he said were, and I don't say this lightly because I adore Freeman, but they are on the kind of just over the line into the unprofessional territory. I did think that some of them were. So I think the admonishment is fair. I will say that. The rest of it, I'm not happy with, except for the 1 hour deposition, because Wayfarer were happy to give it to her. But I think telling them that, well, you got to pay for everyone's costs and her lawyer's fees, I think that's a bit crap.
That was crap. But I don't understand. If they can bring up Friedman's behavior in this deposition, why can't they bring out the crash out of all the other lawyers in their depositions? I mean, if you read some of these depositions, it's like the witnesses are like, hey, can I have a chance to answer? And people are yelling at people. There's crosstalk, and these poor people who are witnesses and just there because they're forced to are like, hey, mom and dad, can I answer, please? I'm in this corner. Ezra seems like she crashes out, and I don't know if that's her anxiety, like we talked about, or potential anxiety.
Yeah, so that we don't in the UK, we don't have depositions. So I've done a whole video on the difference between some of the stuff that the UK does versus the US. We don't have depositions. We don't do that. To me, right, that just seems like it's like a practice run almost, and then you're getting billed for basically, what looks like it's kind of like a mini trial almost without the judge, but this whole questioning
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. And like, no, we just go straight to the court, right? we just and we hash it out there, and people are not given a heads up of how they're going to be questioned, which often catches them out. But with these depositions, for a lawyer to be sitting there, right, having done 7 hours, right, and to be sitting there, had a break an hour ago, she's only got 9 minutes of questioning left. To sit there and go, well, I want to take another break, right? All that is doing is driving up costs and wasting time, wasting Jamie Heath's time, making him sit there longer than necessary because he's got to stay there for her to have a break. So are all the lawyers that are being paid to be there. For her to come back
Mm-hmm.
and just do another 9 minutes, like, that actually really pissed me off when I read that. I was like, no, just power through, get over it, and let everyone go home because he's got to come back again and do another 7 hours tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's
That
not
is,
the first time that the Lively attorneys have done that in their depositions.
yeah, no, I know, and it's just wasting people's time, and that it's completely unfair. Um, it's just bad gamesmanship, really. They're not technically, are they doing anything wrong, like from the legal perspective? No, they can do it. But I think Wayfarer had every right to complain about it.
So, do you think that the running up of the lawyer fees and all that, do you think that's also part of a legal strategy in hopes that maybe Steve Sarowitz will get bored, or not bored, but run out of seemingly resources to pay for all of this litigation and lawyers, and maybe in some, I don't know, alternative world, they can't finance this anymore, and maybe they're just playing chicken with fees, like who's going to run out of money first?
I don't know because I get that Sarowitz is funding everyone's fees, so he's funding all of the Wayfarer parties as it stands, including Jed Wallace, right? Who's
Mm-hmm.
obviously got his own law firm now, but Sarowitz is also paying his fees. He's also paying the fees of some non-parties as well, like people from I think he's paying Case and Coslow's fees, and I think he's paying like people like Tara Hanks. So where they were fighting subpoenas. Um,
Mm-hmm.
he's got a lot of money, but he's not the only one who's got a lot of money. Justin Baldoni is a millionaire. Jamie Heath has got a decent enough money. So have the two PR girls. They've all got, if it come to it, like to run down resources. It's not just Steve Sarowitz's resources, and I think Sarowitz is. I don't think they're going to run down his money, and even if they did, even if they got there somehow, um, I think Sarowitz has got enough supporters, probably billionaire supporters, who would back him. And even if it got to that point, right, where he didn't have that, even I'm sure all of us then would do like Give Send Go or something and raise the money to keep going. But I have to say, I also think I get the impression that Fritz and Friedman are the kind of lawyers, like they're millionaires, they
Mm-hmm.
they will probably be doing some of this work pro bono, which is, they'll be doing it for some of it for free, not all of it.
Mm-hmm.
There will be things like where they will be charging less, or they'll be charging they'll be charging nothing at all, because it's not just this one docket. We've got so many dockets going on that are all related, because you've got the Harco insurance company as well, you've got the New York Times, and you've got Jed Wallace over in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Lively's going to bring him back. If she does, I think it's going to be in California. I think if she's going to try anywhere, it'll be California. Um,
California would hold an advantage, wouldn't it, with Jed Wallace?
um, mm, hold an advantage for Lively against him, or for Jed Wallace against Lively?
For Jed Wallace against Lively,
I
because
think she's going to struggle, but I think she's got a bigger tie to California,
yeah,
and
I
people,
agree.
because his company at the time, even after this lawsuit was filed, his company was registered in California. So, and that's, far better claim than New York ever was. She doesn't want to go Texas. She just got out of Texas. She doesn't want to be in Texas. Texas would be the worst place for her to go. I think she has a stronger case in California. But I still think she's going to struggle. I don't think she's much claim against him, because the guy has actually never said anything. He's not been proven to do anything.
And he's admitted to doing nothing except for puffery.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and you can't keep sitting there going, it's untraceable. They've destroyed all the evidence, but and then at the same time say, I'm going to prove my case. That's not how these cases work. You have to be able to, in civil cases, on the balance of probabilities. So you're looking at like a 51% chance that it is likely, more than likely, that Jed Wallace actually did something, what she's saying, to win this. And if the evidence is either invisible, because that's how he was able to do it, or it no longer exists because he's destroyed it, which are the two things that she's claimed, whilst also claiming that there's voluminous evidence. And I just don't see how I can't see how this is working out. And we've not seen anything from her at all. I've seen no text messages.
No, there's no text messages. All there is BL.
We've had nothing from, because in her amended complaints, all she did was cite, like, quote messages. She didn't actually put them in her complaint. And we've seen nothing from Sony, which I think is a big part of the missing picture. We've seen nothing from Colleen Hoover.
Colleen Hoover, I think, got caught up in the bright lights. I think Blake Lively used Brandon Sklenar to woo Colleen, because Colleen was so taken away by Brandon. And I think she just used everybody as a pawn against everybody else in this weird, I don't know, chess game. Yeah. But I think Hoover was taken advantage of, one, because she's not entertainment. She's a book person, right? She was represented by CAA, which is, they do books and authors too, but it's not, she doesn't know what happens when you make a movie, and contracts, and who has to work with who, and what is supposed to happen. She knows none of that. All she knows is whatever Blake Lively told her, which was probably like, oh, he was this mean guy doing these mean guy things to me, and I'm just here trying to save the women of the world and the girls of the world, and whatever, and we can change the world together. Why don't you help me with this, editing this movie, because I didn't read the book. I Googled it, and Colleen got her way because she got her movie that she wanted to make. Instead of Justin Baldoni making a movie on her book, she got more of what she wanted from Blake. She got to spend more time with Brandon Sklenar, right? Because Blake Lively bought Brandon's airplane ticket. Colleen Hoover bought Isabella's ticket. So I don't even think Isabella was supposed to be at Book Bonanza, personally. No. But I think she used that dynamic and that ignorance to her advantage. And
it
snowballed.
This is an absolutely great comment. She is a grown woman. She does not get about exactly. And I mean, I have there's a lot I could say about Colleen Hoover. She's not someone who captures domestic violence in her books. There was I remember in one of my videos, I think it might have been oh gosh, what was it? It was one of the deposition transcripts I was reading, and it was someone was saying, I think it might have been Alex Sachs, was like, oh, Colleen Hoover, no, Blake Lively said to Justin Baldoni that Colleen Hoover said it's not a book about sex. And I was like, has Colleen Hoover read the book? Because I've read the book. It is so graphic. It's like a 50 Shades of Grey, kind of thing. But
Oh, I gotta read the book now. I read 50
oh
Shades
my
of
god,
Grey.
yeah, no,
I have the trilogy. I need to read the book now.
yeah, it's like that. When there are scenes of that nature, like it's incredibly graphic. And I think it got toned down heavily for the film.
Oh
But
my God, that makes so much sense. Okay, so
yeah,
50 Shades of Grey was like a blockbuster, right? Everybody was talking about it. Franchise after or movie after movie
oh
after movie,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So of course they're gonna want, sex because it's gonna be the next probably 50 Shades of Grey. But
Sex sells. It does. Like people can be prudish and say no. It does. It does. It absolutely does.
and
Um,
Blake Lively was the prude.
yeah, exactly. But it is, and again, 50 Shades of Grey it turned into a franchise.
Yep.
But Blake Lively literally sat in an interview and said, that when she heard about the book, she saw it as a franchise opportunity.
Yep. And she did tell Colleen Hoover that she would follow her anywhere as long as she has her rights.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
no,
pretty crappy of Blake Lively to say that on record. For
yeah.
the record, that was pretty shitty.
I mean, she's not going to get the rights. I know a lot of people thought, oh, there was some kind of clause in the kind of option of the book that like some kind of misconduct clause where if sexual harassment or something like that was alleged, then the rights would revert back to Colleen Hoover. That is not the case. Justin Baldoni still has hold of that second book, and the rights to it. I don't. I do you know what? I'd love to see the second film made. I would. I would obviously they would need to recast, the character of Lily Bloom. Well, in fact, most of the characters, because
Yes, they
yeah,
would, but
yeah, with the
would
exception
you?
of the husband of Jenny Slate's character, who I
Oh,
quite like.
that guy, Hassan. Love,
Yeah,
love Hassan.
yeah, he
No,
was
but
nice.
what would the second movie even look like though? Because Justin Baldoni, in agreement with No More, said that there would probably be too much explaining of how much work an abuser would have to do in order to co-parent with
He's not wrong though, right? If he like like in family law. I mean, I'm speaking from the UK perspective, but dads over here when they want what's called parental responsibility, so that means like on the birth certificate, or if you're married to the mum, you get equal rights.
uh-huh.
Yeah. So before 2003, if you were a single, like if you were an unmarried couple, even if the dad was on the birth certificate, he did not automatically get the same rights as mum. In
Hmm.
2003, the law changed, and now dad gets equal rights to mum if he's on the birth certificate or if they're married.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that has led to no, because the option is right is if you don't put the dad on the birth certificate because you don't want him to have the rights for whatever reason, or you split up and he's just like he's awful, he's an addict or whatever, he's
Mm-hmm.
abusive. The alternative is father unknown, which is not true for many people. And it's like it's a right, given that a birth certificate is a form of ID, it's quite a stigma to have that on an ID that you might present to your college or your employer or something, or if you want to get married, you've got to hand over your birth certificate, and it's really like it's such a compromise. So many women would just putting the dad on the birth certificate anyway, and when it comes to like if they split up, especially if it's acrimonious, um, the child then becomes a weapon in the middle, and fathers are not unfairly, because there are a lot of women who are doing it to men as well, using their children against the fathers. So the change in law was not entirely unwarranted, but there are a lot of men, abusive men in particular, who, when it comes to co-parenting, they didn't do the right thing by the child. So co-parenting, like they use the child to continue to control the mother. No,
Mm-hmm.
you will do this, or I will, or I'm not going to do that, or I'm going to, drag you to court. There's a threat of all kinds of crap all the time, and like when I first did all my qualifications and everything, like family law was the first area I went into, and I did not like it because you were seeing all of those kind of battles. You were dealing with domestic abuse a lot, people, really personal stuff, and I didn't like that at all. So I um changed areas basically. But the way I saw with the film was like I had a problem with the domestic abuse. So the
Mm-hmm.
first incident with the oven, I think that was easily passable as an accident. But
Yes.
it was just not believable as he deliberately intended to hit her. He burnt his hand and then he kind of like swiped it back out the way and her face kind of she was there. I didn't see it as any more than an accident. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
he got angry, but like if I burnt myself on an oven and I needed my hands from my career because they save people's lives, then I would be angry in that moment. Um, yes, we did get to like an attempted rape and pushing up down the stairs and everything, but I just found that it was unbelievable because she left so easily. She literally walked away, and she didn't just walk away. She went to her ex partners
Oh
and stayed
yeah.
there. She was openly flirting with him in the restaurant in front of her abuser. And then, like,
Yeah.
when the baby was born, they seemed so happy almost, and he was so gentle. I mean, the guy's a doctor as well, but he seemed so gentle with the baby that I was like,
It's
you know,
not reality.
it's not reality, no, because he doesn't seem like a monster. Like, he seems like someone. Well, one thing I'm trying to find the right way to explain it. So the one thing Justin Baldoni did with this film, which I absolutely love, right, is you had both Atlas and Ryle. They both had really traumatic things happen earlier in their life. And
Mm-hmm.
the one thing he showed was the two completely different paths they took. So
Mm-hmm.
you had Ryle with his anger issues, and then you had Atlas then kind of pulling himself out of this kind of hole and making something of himself and, going from being homeless to running his own business.
Mm-hmm.
And, they both had very, very traumatic starts in life. And I thought that the film, if even if there was nothing else positive I could say about it, it definitely showcased that men who have had a difficult start in life with the right help and support can make decisions that are better than other men will make. But I found it,
That is a very good point. And I'm really glad
yeah,
that you pointed that out because I don't think anybody noticed that. There's definitely a lot of focus on how the movie ended with, oh, Ryle gives up the baby and walks away from the life that he could have had. But nobody really takes a look at what happened to Atlas. What was Atlas's, downfall in childhood, and then what was his rise? And
yeah,
I think the second book focuses on Atlas and his brother, I think, and that dynamic on different paths. Maybe I think maybe I read something online about that, but um, that's a really good point that you made, and I'm glad that you made it. So, would
mm.
you see that a sequel would show the tug of war that a lot of parental domestic violence relationships go through? Like with my own DV relationship with my late husband, he was in and out of rehab, he was in and out of the psych ward, and then in between all that, we were in and out of couples therapy, family therapy, individual therapy. Do you think the sequel would focus more on that, or do you think it would focus more on like parenting and better behaviors and things like that? Because all of that has a bigger backstory, and all of that can be an independent story in itself.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if we were basing it. Let's say we were basing this on Colleen Hoover's own experience, right? Which I'm doubting because I've seen her say in one interview that there was only like the oven incident really that her mom experience, and then in another interview she says, oh, all of it was about her mother's experience. But the problem I have with Colleen Hoover, right, and her writing this, I'm not saying it's not reflective. That's my opinion of my experience, and I think many women's in particular experience of domestic violence, getting out of it safely, because it's the most dangerous moment is when you leave the relationship or try to leave the relationship. But she kind of just walked out, like nothing was holding her back. I mean, she even went to the hospital, which I'm assuming her husband works in, to go and get treated. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that she, like Colleen Hoover in her book says, well, my parents had divorced before I was even 3. So there was a bit of questioning over her memory to be able to recall the abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Given that, like Lily is predominantly, she's experiencing, her experience particularly, as young Lily, witnessing her dad being abusive to her mum is what is supposed to be the real life part of Colleen Hoover's experience. But Colleen Hoover herself says her dad was amazing, the nicest man in the world. So when we're talking about co-parenting, like, well, I don't know how it would have gone, because I don't know what Justin Baldoni was thinking really, but it's not a given. This is what I'm saying. Like, it's not a given that just because someone is abusive to their wife for whatever reason, and I am absolutely not excusing it at all, far from it, but they can still be a good parent, even if they're a complete asshole to their wife, their parents, to siblings, to their boss.
Oh,
It's a
I,
different love, isn't it? As a parent, like your child, like you can not like your spouse, you
yeah.
can, but you will do anything for your child.
Yeah, that I think I don't mean to say lucky in my DV situation, but I will say for the most part, he was a very good father and dedicated father to his kids.
Yeah,
Our relationship, it was a different story. It's night and day. And of course there was like periods of what I say, like DV remission, where there's months and months of nothing and then snap,
yeah,
something happened. But my late husband was very dedicated to the kids, to the point where he would question and perseverate, and I think this is part of his mental illness. um is he a good dad? Is he a good person? Is he, and then another part of it was, is he following in his abusive dad's footsteps by doing this and that? Or, he was very introspective on his fatherly behavior. Our relationship was something completely different, and a lot of the DV was, driven by substance abuse, mental health,
yeah,
trauma, the classic trifecta of, you know, a wounded person. But
yeah,
I think I kind of think it would be important for people to see how much work some of these abusers do, because, and I'm not trying to give an abuser a pass or anything, but
no,
I'm saying there are some people who really, really try to change their behavior, going to rehab, psych holds or voluntary psych evals, therapy, couples therapy,
anger management.
anger management, time out periods. Okay, you threw a
Yeah,
glass at me, you're gone for a week, you can come back. you know Whatever boundaries, whatever there's a lot of work that sometimes people do,
yeah.
and they
Or
can't escape it sometimes, which
or in the UK, like we would do like supervised visits, like so he would come
Mhm.
with like I suppose, what do you call, you have child services, we have social services here, which is, I think, is a similar thing. Like,
Yeah.
so in the presence of a social worker,
Mhm.
or like a child protection type officer, they would have scheduled, they wouldn't just have be alone with the child or have them staying overnight, but they would have like regular visits, which would be at a scheduled set time, probably in the presence of, you know, a like an impartial third party, who would probably be someone like a court appointed guardian kind of thing, or a social worker. So there'd be ways, because over here, certainly, like, the fact that a father is abusive to the mother, or has an alcohol or drug problem, or has even got a history of violence, the court would not remove his rights as a father. They
No,
would
they
not
would
remove
not.
those rights just for that alone. Like, again, it has to be the most severe. They've been sexually assaulting the child, or they've tried to kill the child, tried to kill the mother. It would have to be those, like, something really significant, because it's a big thing to take away the rights of a person to be a father, but also to take away a father away from a child.
There is one instance that we went through, and I think it was a psychotic slash substance abuse break, but we ended up getting a restraining order, court granted restraining order through family court. And we were able to request, with the aid of my father-in-law, to ask the court like stipulations. Like, we were asking for like drug rehab, we were asking for like weekly testing, we were asking for like county county drug education, like all of these things we were asking
Yeah.
the court to do, because we were using this restraining order to kind of like protect us, but like, get him into a safe place too, where stuff can start happening. But yeah, you're right. The court didn't take away his rights. The court was
No.
actually, they worked with us, and we had to do all
But
these
yeah,
parenting plans, and
because
it
that's
was a
what.
lot of work on everybody.
Yeah, but that's what you want to do, because, like, it could be like, when you drill down with Ryle's story, well, he has to live with the fact that his brother was killed by him. Accident, complete accident, but he has to live with that. Well, that's huge. You know, like, getting someone therapy and trauma counseling, and any amount of help, because otherwise you're giving up on them. And I'm fortunate in some ways, right? Because my ex-husband, who was really abusive, I didn't have children with him. I had my children with my previous ex before him. Um, my kid's dad, though, he wasn't much better. He wasn't as bad as my ex-husband. He wasn't as controlling, but he had drinking problem, and he was lovely until he was drunk, and then he would, like, throw glass, or kick in a door or something. He'd get quite nasty, and it would be more violent, I guess. But I co-parented with him great. He was actually a decent dad, and I'm still decent. We're still pretty good friends with him now. And I'm kind of thankful for that. I got out of the relationship because it was the right thing to do for me, but I could not imagine, sort of, like, the kids not having him around, because I guess it wasn't constant, and there were strategies. Like, he went to, like, an alcoholics therapy group, what they call, like, a Alcoholics Anonymous type thing, where people get together and talk and share things. And he tried a variety of rehabilitation programs, and he did end up in prison a couple of years ago. I haven't been with him for over, God, it's got to be, I don't know, nearly 20 years now. But he did end up in prison a few years ago because he had a bad lapse. But I also appreciate it's not for everyone. Like, not everyone can work with a man like that. Like I say, I look back and I think, you know, not ashamed to admit this, but, like, my ex-husband, who was really abusive and really controlling, he had no children of his own, so we were trying for a child, and it just didn't happen. But when I got out the marriage, I do, with him in particular, I do thank my lucky stars that that didn't happen, which is not how I felt with my kid's dad. Like, I am glad that I didn't have a child with my ex-husband, because I would have had that tied to him, which would have been an absolute nightmare for me. So I think it does depend on the man. But the thing is, right, is I'm also getting from the vibe I get from the character of Ryle is that he seems controlling and jealous. And I could imagine that it would be difficult to co-parent with him, absolutely. But I do wonder if there would have been strategies that they could have put in place. But they've kind of walked away from that possibility, I guess, by the way they ended the film. I don't know. Because they didn't expressly state that he did. I don't recall them expressly stating that he was never going to be involved in the child's life.
That's what it looked. Yeah. Basically, at the end of the movie, she's like, "It's just us," when he sees Atlas, and Atlas has like that one pose that he loves to do with his hand underneath his chin. Have you noticed that he does that?
Yeah, I did.
Like all the time. That's like his one thing. But she said, "No, it's just us." And I thought that Ryle kind of made it clear when he said, when he was saying, "Oh, I would tell her never to come back or whatever," and then he just leaves. I thought
that's a different relationship, though, isn't it? That's a different relationship. A parent-child relationship is not the same as a man-wife, boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. It's just not the same.
Yeah. And it's not the relationship between step parents may not be the same with biological parents either.
No, absolutely. I think I don't know, because I have got stepchildren, so I think I feel, I guess, that and again, not everyone has to agree with this, but because I'm doing the job, but I feel like I'm on the same level as the biological parents.
Yeah.
And my current husband is a stepdad to my children from my previous relationship. We have a little one together. But he's also still doing the same job with my children too. He gets on with their dad. Like there's no the big issues. It would not have been the same had it been my ex-husband. If I'd had children with him, having to navigate that, because he would have been the biggest asshole in the world just for the sake of it. Like, I think there's a certain personality, where co-parenting would be really hard. And
I'm
I'm
imagining
not getting
Ryan
that with
Reynolds
Ryle
right now.
Yeah.
Can you imagine co-parenting with Ryan Reynolds?
Oh my God, the horror. He needs to be parented himself. The guy's a nightmare.
I have a lot of questions for Ryan Reynolds, more than I had before this movie ever came out. Yeah, that's just a toxic. I just don't know. I can't even comment. At one point, I think in one of my videos, I mentioned, well, Blake Lively must be telling the truth as far as emotional distress and having the stress affect their children. I'm thinking, what if Ryan Reynolds is coming home every night and blasting Blake over the dailies, and the kids are seeing this? Where were the kids when Justin Baldoni was getting blasted by Ryan Reynolds over the weight thing? Where were the kids there?
Yeah.
Exactly. Where were the kids when there's this whole belittle meeting thing for 5 or 6 hours? Were the kids there? The kids were obviously on set, so were they on set with Ryan Reynolds, and Ryan Reynolds was screaming at Blake Lively?
Well, we know the meeting back in April 2020. Is it 2023? That first meeting where they talked right after the trainer snitched. That first meeting, the kids were. It was in one of the deposition transcripts. I think it was in Justin Baldoni's actually, where he was asked like, was anyone else around, and he said, yeah, there was kids all over the place, their nannies, the assistants, you know, so on and so forth. So the kids have been definitely present for some of these like hostile moments where Justin Baldoni has been in their penthouse.
Yeah.
So at least one is documented.
Yeah, but even seeing people scream at each other is, can be considered domestic violence.
Oh yeah, intimidation.
Mm-hmm.
It's intimidation. Yeah, absolutely. Um, and yeah, I do think so. And like with this comment here from SS Web 4003, I thought this was right. Because I have read the sequel to the book, the sequel. I just can't remember it off the top of my head now. I can't remember that much about it.
Oh,
But
yeah, visit
yeah, he did
visit.
have supervised visits in the book. Which is what I said. Like that's an option. That's what we would do here. You wouldn't just cut the relationship off.
Oh, so then in the book, who is supervising? Is
It
it
would be
Atlas?
something like and no, it'd be some kind of authority or something. Like it would be like a child. I don't know what you call them in America, but like
Like
we
a,
have a social worker over here. What do you
yeah,
call them?
social worker.
Yeah, so it'd be that kind of thing, or because there's no criminal charges filed, so it wouldn't be like a probation officer or anything. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it would be like a court appointed, someone from a child protection team, I'm guessing, would be that would
Or it could be part of their divorce,
mm,
because the divorce could be handled in one thing, and then maybe family law could be in a different thing.
yeah.
The divorce stipulation, because I'm sure custody is
Yeah,
going to come up.
it would be. A divorce is completely separate from that's dealt with. Well, at least in the UK, it is. It's dealt separately, So you deal with the actual divorce, so the separation of the marriage. Then you deal with like the financial arrangements. That's like how much of the house, bank accounts, pension sharing, and all that stuff. That's a separate matter that usually gets dealt with before the divorce is finalized. But then, like, and again, this is the UK now. But then you're dealing with what's called child arrangement, which is like how often, who's responsible for making decisions over schools, doctors, you know, is anyone allowed to take the child abroad on holiday, or has it got to stay in the UK? Because
Mm-hmm.
you're not, like with parental rights, you are not allowed to. Each parent can only go out of the UK on holiday with the child for up to 2 weeks with the permission of the other parent. You can't do any more than that. If the other parent doesn't give permission, you can't do it.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that
Yeah,
makes
that's
sense.
right. So, like, what name, is the child going to revert to the mother's name? Like, if she remarries and so on and so forth, this is just like a whole host of decisions that have to be made for a child. And that will also include, like, well, where's the child going to live primarily? Are they gonna is it shared custody, or is it gonna be mum has custody but dad gets visitation on every other weekend? Is it supervised? Who's it supervised by? And there'll just be so many things, and it gets more complicated. Like if the kid's disabled or got a chronic health condition that needs care, it's just an absolute, it's non-exhaustive list of all the things that well, you know yourself, right? Because you're mum, like all the decisions you have to make on a daily basis for your child, and then you've got to sit down and work out, right, which one of us is going to make these decisions, and what's the, how do we veto a decision, and so on and so forth. And then they wrap it up in a court order then.
Mm-hmm.
So like if anyone breaches the court order, then they can be brought back to the court, and the aggrieved party can seek contempt of court, or well, as Blake Lively likes to call it, sanctions.
Yeah, maybe, that would be good for all of us to see, like that backstory and everything that goes, because I don't think people really see that, you know what I mean? And that's another piece of this puzzle in domestic violence.
Yeah,
It's almost half the battles when you start going to court with the other
yeah.
party.
I mean, Century Butterfly's right. Again, there's absolutely some men that do this. They do just abandon their kids or give up their rights.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. Um, the thing is, though, I do agree with that, and sometimes it's for entirely selfish reasons. It's easier for the men in their view, but other times it is because they think they're doing the right thing. Um, I just don't. The character of Ryle just does not strike me as that kind of, you know, um character. He doesn't as that kind of personality, because I don't know. He just seems so excited when the character of his sister was having a baby, and I I think he would be a good dad. This is the thing. Like as a lot of my children's dad, I see in Ryle in that sense, in that to live with him when he was angry, jealous, or drunk or whatever, like it was a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
But there were other times when it wasn't a nightmare, and then as a dad, he was a different person altogether. It's a really hard one. It's a really hard one. I think this is the part that people don't talk about too much, really, because we never really got to it because it came right at the end of the film and it was left kind of
Yeah.
awkwardly, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
that is very true.
and Christina has brought up the rape shield law. I'm going to just say it as it is. I don't dumb things down, but yeah. So the rape shield law. So between that, the amicus briefs, these abuse of section 47.1. This case is really making as a woman, it's just driving me to my limits. What do you think?
Yeah, I as a woman, it takes away my voice and even my confidence to even report anything because who's going to believe me?
Yeah,
Which I feel like I'm, 16 again in the same position. Who's going to believe me? You have nobody. And I'm a mom of boys. And
yeah,
so I'm looking at this like this could easily happen to one of my sons. And how would I even protect them against a lie in court papers? You couldn't be able to.
no, exactly. And I tell you
And
some. Go on. Sorry.
sorry. And I just think that from because I'm looking at this more of like a mom. Um,
Yeah,
and I guess I could look at it as a wife or a girlfriend or even a sister. I just stop lying is just my thing. It's like you're ruining it for everybody. You had alternative means. I'm pretty sure they had alternative means to get back at him some way, somehow, versus, the New York Times and a fake complaint because everybody's dragged in. Ezra is like going off of her rocker, and maybe that's because she's trying to cover up for the Van Sham. But this is a sinking ship, and the rats are jumping with the ship, and Lively has no.
yeah. Well, I will share something, right? So I'm not a mum of boys at all. I have got brothers. Obviously my father and my husband. But my children are all girls, and I've got my eldest has got two children, and they're both girls as well. So from that perspective, I don't have that vantage point. However, I suppose I could give an example. Like, so I've made no secret. My husband is a specialist practitioner for adolescents and child mental health, what we call CAMS in the UK. Um, and he has had to work with like adolescents, kind of teenagers, older children who he's now community nurse, but now before when we first kind of I say when I first met him, I met him when I was 14, so I met him many, many years ago. He was my first love. But we had a long time apart because my parents moved. And then we kind of met each other again. And when we first met each other again, which is 9 years ago now, he was working at an inpatient mental health hospital. And he, I think a few months after I met him, he come round to see me and he was like absolutely distraught. And I was like, okay, what's happened? Um, and a lot of the people in these psych wards are females, teenage girls. And he had been falsely accused of inappropriately restraining someone, causing them injury, and groping their breast.
Oh my God.
Now he was only on one arm, like because when you restrain a mental health patient, like there's certain techniques and things, and there's
Right. It's usually
specific ways.
4-on-1.
Yeah, so like, but there were few people there. There was, he was on one arm. There was someone else on another arm, and I think there was a couple of other people doing. I don't know the full ins and outs, but the other person on the other side, who was female, was also falsely accused of the same thing. So
Oh
he wasn't.
my
Yeah,
God.
no, in the same incident. So he wasn't the only person, and this young girl was apparently she was known for making these kind of accusations. So
Oh.
men were kind of loath to go and have to deal with her at all. But my husband did with the with other people with him. Thank God there was CCTV though, because
Yeah.
it proved that none of that happened for a start. But like the worry in his face when he come home, he was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I could lose my job. I could do that. I could be struck off the nurses register.
You
All
could go
kinds
to
of things.
jail. I mean,
Yeah. And it's like I had never seen anyone so devastated in my life. And
yeah.
it was absolutely horrific. I mean, it didn't last long. He only had to deal with that for like about a week before, it was a bit of an investigation. They got the CCTV, they had witness reports and everything. And basically, all the members of staff were kind of, found that, they were completely innocent. So it was all good. But like I can't imagine because these allegations like have been going on for Justin Baldoni for since 2023.
Mm-hmm.
That's nearly 3 years now. We're coming up to like in a few months' time. That will be 3 years from when it started, and I can't imagine having to live with that kind of pressure, sitting on, like just sitting on his shoulders. Like my husband went through a nightmare just with 1 week of having that kind of worry and the weight of all of those allegations and the repercussions on him. So I really can't imagine what Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath and Steve Sarowitz are kind of dealing with more than obviously more than the PR girls because they're the ones that are actually accused. Kind of, well, not so much Sarowitz, but he's accused of quite horrific stuff. Um, but certainly Jamie Heath and Justin Baldoni, I can't imagine how they are just kind of keeping their crap together because
You know, my
you
question is, why did they bring in Sarowitz? Because they had all they needed with Jamie Heath and Justin Baldoni.
well,
Because
that's
it
the
was an
maliciousness.
LLC.
That's the maliciousness. I mean, technically, Sarowitz is not accused of sexual harassment, except that he
Right.
kind of is, though, because, he was alleged to have turned up on a set when she was going to be nude from the waist down, and he only went specifically to go and see her in the nude. And, whilst it's not like the direct, allegations that are being levied at Justin Baldoni and like Jamie Heath, like the implication of putting out a claim like that speaks for itself. But then there's the whole, you know, the mischaracterization of what he said to Claire Ayub as well. And I think they are putting the squeeze on him because he is the person who's kind of bankrolling all of this, the legal fees and everything. Um, but that Wayfarer recognized that, and that's why they specifically there was like a section of their motion for summary judgment which specifically said he needs to get out of this because you've got nothing on him.
Yeah. Did you see in Blake's disclosures that Claire Ayub, under her description of what she knows, is harassment? Did
No,
you notice
really.
that?
How did she know though? She was nowhere near the set.
It says it mentions something about like harassment or behavior of intimidation, harassment, whatever behavior. Um, it's like she has the same wording as like Brian Friedman of intimidation and harassing. And I think there's only 3 people that have that description, and Claire Ayub is one of them, other than the lawyers.
Oh, I know. I know.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
I gotta go
Trish.
feed my children.
No, that's fine. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, Trish, as well. I just want to quickly acknowledge this one. Yes, no, we were each other's first boyfriend and girlfriend. It's really adorable that, and we found each other again after 30 years when I was at my lowest and I probably needed him. So, yeah. I'm going to leave it there, guys. I know that House of Chatter, Emmy has dropped out because she's got to feed her kids. But it was nice to kind of get together and just go over some stuff and catch up again. So I will do that again. I'll try and get Emmy back as well because she's lovely to talk to. And I definitely recommend going to give her a follow. I think Christina's already put the link to her YouTube channel. She is quite new to this case. She's quite late to the party, so we're kind of there's a bunch of us who are just helping to ease her in and catch her up, but she's doing a really good job. So and as ever, thank you to Christina as well. So but appreciate you all. I will be continuing with the deposition transcripts. I've got a video that's due to come out tomorrow, and I'll be doing a couple more around cooking Christmas dinner. And this weekend, I'm also doing the Candace Owens motion to dismiss in the case that the Macrons filed against her. So for anyone who's interested in that and is following that as well, I will be covering that. It's only 43 pages, so I should actually get it done in 1-2 hour sitting, maybe less. So, okay, have a great Christmas. I will be putting videos down, so do keep an eye out for them if you want to watch them. And I will be persevering with that deposition transcript, but that is going to be a long, long run. It's going to probably take me the best part of a week to cover. All right, guys, take care.